So here's my ceiling. Looks good, right? Not quite. I mean, when you look at it like this, it does look fine, but I don't like these things. And I just removed one of them to see what's up. There's plenty wires in there. When I just look at it, when I'm sitting, lying down, I don't like these. When you look at it like this, it's fine because the light is preventing you to see. Let's just turn on the LED strip and turn off the recessed LEDs. You see that, right? It's metallic gray. It looks kind of dark, blackish. And I use the indirect lighting, which are my LED strips. Let's see, here, these things. But these are only yellow, which I will be replacing. That's our cat, by the way. He's crazy like that, always sleeping in weird positions. So I will be replacing these with LEDs with adjustable range of white as well as RGB, and will make this motion controlled smart lighting. Now the plan is to just get rid of that. The center island. I will also be making this part straight like this. So instead of a concave rectangle, it was concave, right? I'll be having a regular rectangle. Okay, let's start it. Now, disclaimer, please be careful when doing any electrical stuff at your home. Turn off your breakers. Please make sure and double check you have no electricity on any of your wires. If possible, get an help from electrician. The LEDs I'll be using are also known as RGB CCT LEDs, and I'll be using strictly a Zigbee smart home in order to run fully local and offline, and it will be controlled through Home Assistant, so it will be a nice balance of open source, high customizability, and convenience. Now we have only this one left, and this one. Now, I will be removing all of these and then we can remove the cables. In fact, I'm already currently using the Zigbee Home Assistant combo. I just haven't yet had much of a lighting setup yet. I already have some motion sensors. I have purchased some Zigbee LED controllers, which will be working alongside the LED strips, which will provide dimmability and color adjustability as well as color temperature adjustments. See, there's stuff like here. I don't know what they are, if they're screws or something. But I think we will have to just remove some of this and try to get to it. I just hope that there is a better way, but I don't know. Yeah. So we got this going on. So it's obviously there's not a controller here. Okay, this is interesting. Now, let's just remove this. Let's just get rid of the LED. There is cabling here, so it has to be connected there. You know, you can see the cable here. I just tucked it in so it doesn't dangle out. I will be removing this one and then we will be free of the LED. Initially, before I started doing this work, I believed that I will be able to remove the plasterboard using a utility knife and avoid all the dust. But unfortunately, at my first trial, the utility knife just didn't go through. It just didn't move past the plasterboard. I will just be able to remove it from the center. You see those? There's a lot of screws there. You wouldn't believe, like, I don't know, 20 at least, I think. I could have used a hammer hitting the back of the utility knife, but I thought it would just break at some point. It just wouldn't be possible to continue. I tried a saw that I had at hand. I think it's called a back saw, but it simply prevents you from going further into an object. Unlike a regular saw, it has a backing which is thicker than the saw blade itself, so I could only go 6 or 7 centimeters. I think there are similar saws that doesn't have this part, which might have worked, but I simply didn't have any other handsaw that I could use. Later, I purchased a plasterboard saw, which made things much easier and less dusty. So then I switched to the jigsaw, which made a lot of dust. I was simply trying to understand how I could remove this. Obviously, you can see there's a plus-shaped profile in the center, and there are profiles on the sides that match the shape you see on the ceiling as well. The profiles are held by a lot of screws, so I had to remove the centerpiece piece by piece. I also had to remove the plasterboard, which was held by the profiles. That wasn't easy, and I would keep coming across profiles, which forced me to stop using the jigsaw, remove more, and then continue. It was tedious work. I guess if I had been doing it all over again, it would have been much easier. But this was my first time. It was a process of trial and error. Despite the mess, I managed to get rid of the center part and then remove the whole thing. This is one of the parts that created the most dust, along with the final day of demolishing, which involved the heaviest work. It was also rough because I had a couch nearby. It wasn't directly beneath the work area, but it wasn't far enough, so some debris got on it, which wasn't great. In this part, I showed the amount of screws I had, the ones I hadn't removed yet, and the ones I would be removing, as well as the mess I had made. If I were doing this, I would just use the chisel that I later used, along with the help of a screwdriver. I had tried this screwdriver earlier, but it just wouldn't budge, so I gave up on that. Instead, I tried removing the actual screws with the screwdriver, then used the power drill and other tools. I cut the heads of the screws, did other tasks, cutting sheets with a sheet metal cutter. I tried to do it cleanly, but with this kind of work, you really should just try to get rid of things as brute force as possible, because in tight spots, it's not easy to remove them. Later, you'll see me removing sidemost parts of the rectangular shape of the recessed ceiling with a chisel and a hammer, which worked really well. For this part though, I chose the hard way, which later helped me to discover a more optimal method. I guess it had to happen that way. It took some time, but eventually I was able to remove the whole thing, which turned out to be one of the longer parts. At this point, I found out that the concave rectangle has two concave parts. The first one is what you see when you look up, and the second is what connects it to the ceiling. It is slightly inwards by about 15 to 20 centimeters. When I attempt to convert the concave rectangle into a flat rectangle, the top parts connected to the ceiling would protrude beyond the new flat sides. I could either cut less of the concave rectangle and fill in the corners to make it flat, or decide exactly where to cut, including the piece connected to the ceiling. However, this would then require reconnecting it to the ceiling or handling it in a somewhat unorthodox way. I decided to stick with my original plan, cutting a flat rectangle measuring 45 centimeters from all sides and trimming the piece that connects to the ceiling accordingly. Keeping the ceiling connected piece would have meant cutting much less than initially planned, creating a very wide recessed ceiling with a great volume of corners to fill. This approach would have required significant extra work and wouldn't have looked very good, because I wanted something more minimal. It's a new day now. Hopefully we'll be able to remove this and make it actual flat and get rid of the top bendy part. Let's do it. In this one, I simply start cutting with the help of the sheet metal cutter and plasterboard saw. I start removing the top ceiling connected part piece by piece. So later I will be able to remove it by unscrewing it from the ceiling. But as you will see from the following sides, the easier method was just using the chisel and prying it. This of course does some surface damage to the ceiling. However, this is so insignificant on a ceiling that is already gonna get fixed with plaster and paint. This is really unimportant. And if you really cared, using a small sheet or piece of metal would even allow you to pry it without damaging the surface. So really, trying to unscrew these tight screws on a hard spot like this is just not really the way to go. Saving those screws would be nice, but it's just not worth the time or effort you would be spending here. But this is the first side I did, and then it's gonna be much easier. These two circular plasterboard pieces were hidden in the recessed ceiling, and I will be making some more to cover those holes. Here I make around 28 centimeter circular plasterboards to cover the holes left from the recessed LED lights I've removed. This was a lot of dirty work, but later you will be seeing that I make one test to fill one of the holes and it works pretty good. So it was quite worth it. Today I'm very prepared. I got my work clothes on. I've got all of the room covered properly now. I have drawn lines on all three sides. I've got all of my tools prepared. Hopefully we got 6 hours today. I can just do all of the rest of the work, which is a bit more like 2 to 3 times what I've done so far. But I will try to make this happen today, and I will try to finish the demolition part today, and then I can just line the plaster and maybe painting, doing the LEDs, making it pretty. But today I will try to finish this. Let's start. On another room, the house, I plan to do sound treatment. I was going to have some on the ceiling as well, basically in place of the centerpiece, just mostly filling the ceiling with a 60 to 120 centimeters rectangular panels, which will provide much better sound characteristics for this room. It will basically cut a lot of echo, reverb, provide a much better movie watching experience, playing games, listening to music, anything related to sound will be much better. I was briefly considering just lightly doing some treatment because I will only have maybe leftovers from the other room. Now that I think about it, I think I will use quite a bit of the ceiling for the sound treatment because I simply want better sound in this room as well. Maybe it will be more crowded than before, but these panels won't be too thick. I think it will look much better. What's important is that it will simply sound much better, and there's just no replacement for that. So even if you lose a little bit of in terms of the looks, you gain so much more in the sound area. And I also have to tell you that I'm a filmmaker, so I also use my TV for creative work, so that also matters. Making those sound panels look kind of like a decor, like a nice piece, like it belongs to the ceiling. If I design it really well, it will look and sound much better, which will be, I think, a better use of the ceiling. We got all the sides done. This corner is pretty well. We got a little bit of there, here. This is the worst part. We got some parts off. Otherwise, it doesn't look terrible in terms of the line. Let me look at it from here. Also, a little part to fill. Oh, and this is the center, by the way. And this also looks a little bit brighter in real life. I just reduced the exposure a little bit so you can easily see the LEDs. So it's not blown out. It's still blown out, as you can see here. Now, since we have all of the parts mostly done, I just need to remove these screws. Hopefully I can use my power drill. The center is all free of screws. It just needs some plaster, and some of it are ready for plaster, but not all of it. As you can see, about these sides, I just decided to keep them. I might do a lip on these to keep the straight rectangular shape persistent. If I do a lip here and the bend here, the bow here, won't be quite noticeable. I'm mostly worried about these, and these are also still looking, I think, flat enough. So I'm not worried or bothered with these sides. Now, when I remove these screws, all of it, I haven't done plaster on the center. Now I can remove all of them and do plaster for all of it at once. So I get the room messy only once. What else we got? We got the corners. So I intentionally left those corners. I don't know why. It's probably very needless, but I thought it would be like some braces, some support, It would just help hold the longer sides a bit. See, this whole thing is a huge cantilever. It's not heavy. Also, the power supply is here, so it doesn't even bow down. it can carry its own weight. And also, if you look at it from here, see, I mean, yeah, it is a cantilever, but it can be held together because it's not heavy and it's very long. And also, we got like this, like 7-8 centimeters or so support here. So it's not quite a cantilever, as in there's just a little bit of support underneath. I mean, it still goes like 45, so it goes like 38 centimeters something on the air, but it's still very sturdy unless you push it down. Then, yeah, obviously it's gonna fall or crush. But if you don't do it, it can perfectly carry its own weight. But I just wanted to make sure, or I don't know, just play safe. So I kept those corners, but I can remove them, I guess, if I want to. But I think I will keep the short sides and this one because it really doesn't bother me. And if I ever decide to remove the corners, it shouldn't be too much of a mess, to get rid of them since most of the demolition already done. This was a really, really long and tough and hard and exhausting and tiring work to do. I'm very happy with the result. I mean, it doesn't look like anything right now. It even looks worse, if I was honest. This is only showing what is gonna be happening. Obviously, we won't have these dark patches. Currently, I cannot consistently hang the LEDs in place where it will look diffused and even, and it doesn't even reach here since I intentionally curled it up and made patches to help hold the weight. That's why it didn't go as far as it did previously, because it's hard to keep it in one place. But when all is done, it will be proper and it will look, I think, hopefully amazing. This is the update. Next, we will probably do the plaster work and we'll get rid of that weird and disturbing line. I'll also be pulling this back so we won't have this. So the wire is coming from here. So if I pull it from here, let me show you. This is a mess here, so I can probably remove some of the wires here because we're not using most of those because we had all of these lights. Now I just use this. So we got those indentations. We will have a light on the, let me show you this part inside the indentation, and we will have one here on top just as the same. We got an LED connection here, so I can control those from here, but I think it was connected by just one of the, maybe not this. I think this controls the center, which doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it was, I think it was this one because these were the recessed lights which we removed. So I think it should be this one, but I think controls both of them, so I will need to somehow find a way to control them separately because I want to light them separately one by one. Sometimes I might want to turn this on, sometimes I might want to turn this on, and other times I might want both of them on, who knows. And we will also have, let me show you here, we will have WLED addressable RGBs, the type of RGB you can find on PC hardware, fans, and other stuff. You will have that as an Ambilight equivalent thing. We'll also be making the bookcases a little better. I might do a video about that as well. Then we will have some 3D printed figurines like Normandy SR2 and some personal photos and all that here, which will be lit by this light. And we will have the addressable RGB and we will have extra lights. These lights will be spare, so I will use them throughout the house. I might use them with a Zigbee controller or not, who knows, because I have to buy one controller for each place that I want to control individually, and that costs money, obviously. But even if I don't, I can just use them in places, it doesn't matter much, in the places that I didn't have lighting before, so it will be better than no light. So these are 4000 Kelvin. It's usable because if I just cut them in like 1 meter, 2 meters, I can just have a regular small adapter, phone adapter maybe, as long as it's 12 volts and enough power for the length I go with. I can just use them with smaller power supplies. These LEDs are 12 volts, so I can just power them as long as they're not like 5 meters or longer. It will be possible to power them. So I will have a lot of spare LEDs that I can use on the house on various places. I will probably have a video for those places when I add new LEDs. I will have RGB CCT lights for most of the spots in the house that I care about. All the other rooms, unless those rooms have RGB bulbs used, which I will be picking out of Zigbee compatible bulbs. Like for example, I will be using them on the kitchen, on the hallway, inside the bathroom behind the mirror, because that one is a little bit dim. So there will be a lot of places where I will be using RGB CCT, and for the other places that are not so important, that are just a second thought, I might just use these 4000 Kelvin ones. And if I pair them with smart plugs, I can turn them on and off on my home assistant. So that's the update so far. Next, we will be hopefully working on, after doing the plaster work and other cosmetic stuff, hopefully we will be finally moving to the most fun part, which is installing the LEDs. I got rid of the line here. It was kind of tough. I had to do a bit sanding. I also used my just a regular pencil eraser. There was this line which I didn't try to remove this time, which is like this one, and this one was actually also like that before I tried to clean it. Now with the, let me just turn up the exposure a bit. With the rubber eraser, it actually cleaned this perfectly without smearing, unlike this one. And for this one, I had to just do a bit sanding. I tried some cleaning fluids, but that didn't work. So I did some sanding and it's mostly gone now. I mean, you still see it, but I mean, if you look at it from here, it's mostly gone. Now, today I plan to do plaster work for these guys, and these, and those. But before I do that, I will have to remove these screws, and we will do that right now. I remove this one and this one, but only with the help of the plier. The heads are looking outside. It's almost impossible to place the screwdriver. Let me show you the magic here. This is a regular razor right now. See? I mean, this is crazy. If you were to do this with a cloth, it would just smear all over. But this doesn't. It's crazy. I mean, it does go in places, but you can just remove them as well. I mean, these places will be visible, at least partly, so it actually benefits removing them. So rest of the screws on the sides turned out a bit troublesome, so I instead switched doing some plaster on the centerpiece to at least get a more even sealing. Now you're seeing that.
So yeah.
decided on 8 centimeter recessed LED holes because those were driving me nuts and also causing me to not really get a sense of achieving an actual just regular flat rectangle, which was, I think, one of the biggest and most important jobs that I did to make this look pretty and close to what I want. First, I used a small container because I didn't have a larger one, and that was kind of cumbersome because I kept running out of plaster, which I had to make again, which was a lot of work. Then I switched to a larger one, which caused me some issues because when you make more volume, you have to be faster. Also, it somehow gets drier faster because I'm guessing you're making more, so it dries faster or something like that. I don't know, honestly. So the deep container was a big mistake. I also later realized that I had to make this a little bit runny. If it was a little too thick, it would dry very quickly and cause lots of issues. However, if it's a little bit runny, not too much, not extremely, but it has to be a little bit runny, then it works pretty good. I mean, it feels like it's not gonna stick, but it sticks easily and it just works. So with this small container and a little bit runny plaster, I had quite a bit of success. But because I was having some issues at the first, I didn't record most of the plaster work, which was repetitive anyway. So we had like 4 or 5 circles installed. So we got footage of that. So we have the beginning and the end parts. So you can get an idea. And when this was all done, I was pretty happy with the result. I mean, the first part was a little bit really frustrating, but then it was just really good. There was some mess, which I was able to clean. Then it was pretty good. So I guess you can see the trend here. The beginning is usually frustrating and then gets very easy and very fun and very satisfying and rewarding. Here's what the ceiling looks like at night. I mean, it is much better now since you have no interruptions to the rectangle. It looks almost perfectly flat. Now, obviously, there's still some work. I will wait 1 or 2 days and then do the sanding. I will do this as well and remove this, and still have these screws to remove, and this side as well. So I'm pretty happy. I mean, these sides are, since they don't have this part, it looks kind of dark. I mean, if I have the LEDs, let me show this part. I mean, this obviously looks bright. For example, when the light is off during the day, you still have a difference between this part and this part. It doesn't look just white since it's deep, and the deeper part is dark, so you get some difference, so it doesn't quite look uniform. I might do some cover on those, try to find some simple option than just redoing plaster, securing it to the ceiling. It would be kind of hard, or I might just leave it, because when I position the LEDs, ideally, at least when the LEDs are lit, it won't really look non-uniform, but when it is off, it will look a bit non-uniform. So I don't know, there's that. I could also make the depth less, like cut it in half or something, so that there isn't this part where it is hard for the indirect daylight to go in and brighten. So I could do that, but that would be a lot of work, you know, cutting it in half or whatever. That would basically be doing this whole work all over again. So I don't think I will do that. It's not really that important. I will still see how it looks like when it is all done, I'm thinking of doing some kind of a lip to make this a little prettier. And also I have these corners left, not yet fully done. I mean, I have worked on some of the corners, like here for example. I mean, I did it previously, and I also did some more. I think I have also done some work here. I still have some corners to fix. Basically all corners need to be fixed, and I'm out of plaster, and we'll also obviously have these and these holes to fill. So I will get some new plaster and finish the plaster work and do the sanding and then paint it, and then we will have our LEDs. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. Goodbye.